Hello and welcome to Elseworlds DC Fan Podcast. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, is Chris. How are you, today, Chris?
I'm tired, but ready to ring in the new year regardless. So,
We are recording this on New Year's Eve, so you'll have. Look, we're recording 3 on New Year's Eve. One of them you're getting at the end of January. The other 2 you're getting this week of the first week of 2025. So that is that. We're going to start with the news. This episode will pretty much be just about this news that was announced yesterday that Jason Momoa is back at DC, but this time as the main man Lobo and not Aquaman. So I guess let's start with just. I feel like this wasn't surprising, but maybe surprising what movie he's showing up in, which we'll talk about, and just like um because they've kind of hinted that he would be maybe coming back as Lobo. I think that's kind of a big open secret, but just getting it confirmed right before the end of the year, and there's a movie that starts filming in about 15 days that he's going to be in.
yeah, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Can't wait to see that. I'm excited about the project. And Lobo for me is an awesome character for Jason Momoa to be playing. It's so obvious that sometimes I think sometimes the obvious one's just right. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm not super. I mean, like I'm familiar with Lobo from Superman media and stuff, but like I don't really know. I'm not like a big like Lobo fan. I don't really. I know I read him in what American Alien. We talked about that on this
Hmm.
podcast. Um, the Superman the animated series. I remember
Hmm.
Lobo from that. I just actually rewatched that episode probably earlier this year. Um, but other than that, like I don't really know too many Lobo stories. So I guess that'll be something I'm diving into as we prepare for Women of Tomorrow, along with reading Woman of Tomorrow, which I still haven't done. But Chris, you have read Woman of Tomorrow, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh,
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Lobo is not in that, correct?
no, he's not. But I was actually just reading that they wanted him to be in it, but they thought that Lobo would overshadow Supergirl, so they changed the villain.
Yes, I actually read that as well. That Tom King apparently a couple years ago said that Lobo was in his original pitch, but editing told him not to. I didn't hear the part that you said, but that's interesting if that's the case because so I would assume Tom King, was in. Let's not forget Tom King was in the writers' room when James Gunn was planning out the DCU. He was one of those people that were there, and who obviously part of the slate is Woman of Tomorrow, so obviously that is something there. So I wonder if I'm going through the timeline of this. I just watched an interview that I think happened a year ago in the build up to Aquaman 2, where Momoa said he was actually thinking when Zack Snyder called him in that he was coming in for Lobo, because he says, Batman versus Superman, like Lobo is somebody that can take both of those guys down. So like obviously I'm playing Lobo. Plus like it's his dream job.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's been pushing for it for like 10 years. Um and then when Snyder said, "No, you're going to be Aquaman," he was kind of like, "What?" um so then we had like the whole thing like 2 years ago after his meeting with, like, he had a meeting with DC and James and Peter Safran, and he comes out and he's like on Instagram Live or on something where he's like, "Great things are happening. I love you, Peter Safran. I love you, James," and like was shouting out all this stuff. And he was at the WB lot, all that. A lot of people at that point thought, okay, he's going to be playing Lobo, right? And that was the rumor going around. He's going to come back as Lobo, not as Aquaman. Um, And I just never thought it was going to be for Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. But now think about it this way. They know Momoa is a huge Lobo fan and wants to play Lobo. He wants to work with them. They're plotting out the DCU, and Tom King says, hey, James, actually, we're going to be adapting that comic that you liked that I wrote. My original pitch featured Lobo. Why don't we get Jason Momoa to do that? And then just like, nothing was official until yesterday.
Least surprising news of all time.
Yeah. But, none of that was probably official until yesterday, but it was probably cooking. It was probably cooking in the background for a while, like a slow cooker.
Yeah.
And now
it's
finally happened. I'm excited for this. I do think it'll help as well. I know a lot of people are like, Supergirl, like, all right, there's this weird idea online, and we were kind of talking about this in the group chat yesterday with Ron and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that there's people that say this is too easy of a casting. This is lazy. You have some people that say, oh, but Superman doesn't have any A-listers. Who's going to go see Superman? There's no A-listers in Superman. But then, it seems like they cast an A-lister in Momoa for Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. Millie Alcock is kind of not an A-list, but I mean, like, she's up there to the House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon really put her on the map.
HBO is nothing to sniff at, so she's up and coming.
So now you have two. You have two names that can really draw something here. But, I just think it's funny when people are like, well, why are we getting some of the same faces? This is the only one, right?
And it's the one that the Snyder Cult doesn't care about. Let's be honest.
Other than like Peacemaker, the cast of Peacemaker and Waller, none of these people are the same faces. I don't know why people keep saying that. It's Momoa. That's it.
Jason Momoa is the one that the Snyder Cult is not fixated on. I think they're fixated on Henry Cavill, obviously. They're fixated on Affleck. Yep. But they don't care about Jason Momoa because they never really bought into the Aquaman stuff anyway. I think people forget Aquaman was really successful overseas. And like, I feel like the Snyder Cult does not care about this one. Therefore, there's not that much baggage associated with him. He's the one actor from that cast that you can use. Plus, he's the one actor that would actually probably be willing to do it anyway. I mean, it's kind of a seamless transition. He wants to work. He wants to be Lobo. Dude, let him be Lobo. And for people who are saying it's too easy of a casting, sometimes there are easy decisions. Why make it hard because you're like, oh, it's too easy? I'd like some easy decisions in my life.
And here's the thing, too. Like, I see people also saying, like, hey, he's just fan casting off Twitter and stuff. But here's the thing. David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnahan auditioned and were the standouts of the auditions. Sometimes fan casts nail it, right? I mean, like, sometimes, like, he's not sitting there like, who should I do that? These tapes are being sent in, and then he actually sees them in person.
Fan cast Lois. Emma Mackey was the fan cast Lois.
Yeah.
So he's not necessarily fan casting based off Twitter, but I think also I get a little annoyed with there's no big names in Superman. Nicholas Hoult has some cachet to him, and Rachel Brosnahan, while it being TV, streaming TV at that, I mean, she is a respected actress. I mean, people know her name, so it's not like there's nobody in that.
Here's another thing, Chris. People don't show up for movie stars anymore. They don't. They show up for the spectacle. They show up for the movie. They show up for the story.
Agreed.
If the movie's good, they become a name. Chris Pratt was famous from Parks and Rec, which was TV, but he was not super, super famous until Guardians. And then you had him in Jurassic World, and then he's everywhere, and people are tired of Chris Pratt now. If Cornsweet nails it, which we think he will, He's probably going to be everywhere. He's going to become a household name. This is how it works. You can't always cast A-listers. At times, you just cast the best person for the role.
Yeah.
And they
What a
become synonymous
profound
with that
concept.
role and become famous. I mean, that's how it works.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this is a symptom of we have to complain about something.
Yeah, it's because of social media. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
But no, I'm looking forward to it. It sounds like there's a role that like they can just slot Lobo in from Tom King's original pitch. Um, I'm sure he relayed that to the writer who wrote the script. She probably wrote him in that role. They might even expand it a bit because it's Momoa. But here's the thing. We now know a little bit more about this movie, which I'm very excited for. And yes, I will read Woman of Tomorrow very soon, so that way we can actually properly discuss it as we build up to Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
And when you read it, you're going to say, hey, you know what? There's actually room for a bit more plot in here anyway, because it's a pretty point A to point B story.
Mm-hmm.
So for a film adaptation, adding Lobo might actually be necessary for it to really be a fully fleshed out movie, in my opinion. It's a little like when they did The Killing Joke, the animated film. They had to add some weird little thing in the beginning that I don't really want to talk about. But like but like they but like the, you know, some of these comic adaptations, you like, if you're gonna like really do it for a movie, you can do it pretty quick. So
yeah, because sometimes
Lobo,
it doesn't take long to actually read the thing, right?
yep, it's a quick read, in my opinion.
All right, so anything else about Lobo or Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow before we move on to our next topic?
No, I really think we hit it. I just think it's something that if you're complaining about it, I understand you're gonna have reservations, but this seems like a home run.
All right, let's move on to the news that really but the news on what day was it? Friday? Had people about ready to like jump off the bridges, if it felt like. It led to conspiracies, which I don't believe. But the Batman got pushed back another year, which
Yeah,
means we'll be 5.5 years after the Batman Part 1 when we get to sit down and watch the Batman Part 2.
yeah, sucks.
Yeah, what was your initial reaction when you saw the news?
I was just annoyed and I wanted to stop hearing about the Batman at this point. I was like, you know, I love the Batman. We know this. It's very well established that this is my exact aesthetic for Batman. It's what I want to see with Batman. But I'm at the point where I'm excited about new things. The DCU is going. It seems like the Brave and the Bold is getting caught up in the waiting for Matt Reeves game as well. And I'm just at the point where I'm like, you know what, Matt? Make a movie or don't. Make a movie or just don't make a movie, because it's getting ridiculous. I'm not a film writer, but I've seen some films turn around pretty quickly. That's, you know, I it's getting ridiculous. So I was frustrated. I think frustrated as a fan is like, you know, if you're going to delay it even more, just I'm trying not to think about it.
Here's the thing. For some reason, this makes people think this movie is not happening. And look, if this, let's say, God forbid, this movie doesn't happen, I'll own up to being wrong about this. But until they remove, I said this last time it changed dates, until they remove it from the schedule and say it's indefinitely on hold, I am not concerned. James Gunn was asked about it. He said, sure, yes, it's true. The only reason for the delay is that there is not a full script. Those of you who follow me here probably already know that. Matt is committed to making the best film he possibly can, and no one can accurately guess exactly how long a script will take to write. Once there is a finished script, there is around 2 years for pre-production, shooting, post-production on big films. So mainly, if it's going to hit that fall 2027 date, The script is hopefully done before fall of 2025, right? That's your 2-year window. I think it will be. They were just talking about how they're going to be filming next year. That was something Matt Reeves recently said. He said he was almost done with the script. So here's the thing, too. Here's what really pissed me off. The scoopers who are being so irresponsible with this and
They're making it a fight.
alluding to some personal situation going on in Matt Reeves' life that is slowing him down. That is not your right to speculate on.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I don't care if he's going through something personally. If he is, I feel sorry for him. But don't spread rumors about it. Why are we? It's not our business. Our business is to show up when it comes out. Yeah. Why are we this worried about it? I don't understand.
That one I 100% with you is his personal business is personal business, and if something's slowing down the script, like it doesn't it doesn't matter because we can't change it. So why do you care? And it's amazing how many times I say that about things. If you can't change it, you can't fix it. Why do you care? Why does it matter whose fault it is? What's the problem? So I'm with you there. But the scoopers are really being a problem here because they're also pinning it as a fight between Reeves and Gunn.
Yeah.
And there is absolutely no sign that there's a fight between Matt Reeves and James Gunn. In fact, I would argue that James Gunn is going out of his way and bending over backwards to make sure there's no fight between him and Matt Reeves. I think he's being more patient than he even has to be.
Yeah, I mean, what I just read, very diplomatic. Hey, this is how it happened. And he even goes another length to defend Matt Reeves when they're like, hey, people say 5 years is too long. He says, hey, there's been tons of sequels that take longer than 5 years. And then you have people saying that was not the same thing. He's not saying it's the same thing. What he's saying is there's been big gaps between sequels and fans still show up. So it'll happen. The movie will happen. And even that tweet's not enough to put down the rumors that were coming out where people are like, Gunn's trying to get him into the DCU and Pattinson's going to be DCU Batman. James literally just said the only reason is that there's not a complete script, whether it's something personal going on in Matt Reeves' lives, whether he's just slow. It took him like a couple years to write the Batman Part 1. It took him 5 years for that to come out from when he was announced.
I saw a quote from Matt Reeves where he said, writing a script is like closing your eyes and writing blind and, trying to see where you're going or something along that line. And it could be his process. I think he's probably in a tough position because I do think he probably has some parameters because of the DCU. But
I actually think he has none. I think it's just, I think Gunn is very, do whatever you want. He already knows he's doing Batman and Robin stuff. So it's like, hey, Matt Reeves didn't seem interested in Robin. So, dude, do whatever you want. I'm over here making my own thing. Just let me know when we can film.
Yeah, I think at this point, James Gunn, more than anything, just wants him to do it. I think James Gunn's getting a little bit like us, the fans, like, is this ever going to happen? But I really hope that the Brave and the Bold doesn't get completely sidetracked for this. But that was a while off of the anyway, so it wasn't like I was like, oh no, this is pushed back. That's what it is. I'm annoyed with this because you had Robert Pattinson joking he's going to be retired by the time this movie comes out. It's a general attitude that this is taking too long, and it's all on Matt Reeves, and we don't really know anything. But I'm a little annoyed because I thought the script was ready, and then it wasn't ready, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of annoying because I feel like we got a bit of false information somewhere along the line.
Well, EW, I think it was, because Gunn was asked about this. EW had put something in an interview with Reeves where they did not quote Reeves, but they said Reeves said that the script was done, but it was not a quoted part. And Gunn was sent this, and he said, "I'm not sure where the author got that information. Matt never said that. Um, it's not done." And then, like, of course, Matt recently just said, like, it's almost done. And he,
Mm-hmm.
apparently the way he writes is he doesn't write a rough draft and send it in for notes and stuff. It is, he writes the script and he sends portions of it to, like, the studio, and they might give notes on portions of it, but there's not a full completed script yet. Um, and look, each writer has their own style. If you say Matt Reeves said that about, like, closing his eyes and trying to find things, that's what, to me, that sounds more like a, what we call pantsers, where they go by, they make it up as they go, right? And then you also have
Mm-hmm.
plotters. The plotters are going to be the ones that, probably like James Gunn, where they outline. You'll see James with his storyboard stuff. He has everything ready to rock by the time he's recording. And some people will go extremely, like, I like writing, right? So, like, when there's I look up tips all the time, and you'll it's really what works for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be ones that say, "Oh, I write an outline, and then I take that outline and I write in more of the outline, and then I'm going to take those snippets of that outline and I'm going to broaden it even, like, flesh it out even more, and then I can just write the book, if it's a book or a script, like that, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, boom, boom, boom,
Mm-hmm.
boom." But then there's some that can't work that way. They feel too restricted when they're doing that, or they get halfway in and they say, "Actually, that doesn't make sense.
I
Now I
often
have to do
don't
this."
start at the beginning of something because starting and coming up with all the
Yeah,
exposition is, for me, a lot of times like, counterproductive. Like it doesn't really do anything for me. It slows me down. I'm trying to give the reader all these things in there. So when I write something, especially now I'm writing a bunch of essays for school, I build the body and then I work the
right.
beginning and end after it. So everyone definitely, I agree with you, definitely has their different ways of writing, and I don't really think there's a wrong way to do it. And I would argue though that you have a good idea of what you should be doing, it should flow out of you a little bit faster than this. That's my only thing. I think though what we're seeing with the DCU and the Batman universe and all this stuff is because they haven't had this stability and the structure. People are always trying to bring in the mess of the Snyder era, and kind of paints it like, oh, it's the same old Warner Brothers, same old DC, when we actually have pretty strong pillars in place to prevent that. We're not used to these things being handled professionally. I think James Gunn saying the script isn't ready and the script is the first thing, and then laying out that it takes 2 years, I think that's it being handled professionally. We're not used to that as DC fans. We haven't had that. We've had a bunch of, oh, no, 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 and this isn't true. And so I think the mess of the Snyder era has made our fans kind of um quick to jump, and that's the internet in general.
I also just think we know too much about the movie, like, because I, I don't know. For me, this wait is not going to be that bad, and I understand it is 5 years, 5.5 years, but it's already been 2.5, and it feels like it was last year that I
If we
watched the
didn't have
Batman.
the Penguin, I would be a little different on this. The
Yeah, yeah,
Penguin
that
is a
helps too.
really, because you can go revisit the Penguin and kind of be re-immersed in this kind of a world. But I would say to you about the Batman, it's not that I'm impatient because I have things I'm looking forward to. James Gunn's Superman,
Right.
front and center. I think after the roller coaster, the ride of Superman is kind of over. I think then the wait for the Batman Part 2 will become more prominent in my mind.
I think this also wouldn't have such a magnifying glass over it if there wasn't a change at DC during this time.
Yep. I agree with
Because
that.
now people are looking for conflict. People like there to be gossipy conflict. People like that. And before you put any stock in something like Jeff Snyder says or somebody says, like Bill Skarsgård just came out and said he was never in the running for Lex. Wasn't that a rumor that was going around by
Yeah.
Scoopers?
Well, it's
There you
funny
go.
because you had some scoopers saying it was Bill Skarsgård and some scoopers saying it was Alexander Skarsgård, and you're like, oh my god, pick a Skarsgård, and they weren't
Right.
even picking between them.
Right.
So yeah,
There
absolutely.
you go.
Absolutely, Jordan.
All right. Well, we'll kind of wrap up the news one here. Later on, we'll have another episode drop. That is our Creature Commandos episode 5 discussion that we'll talk about. And then we will, of course, be starting our Smallville discussions again as Chris has finished the show. So we got to record our seasons 8, 9, and 10. Those will drop closer to end of January. I'll be on vacation, so we'll have some episodes drop while I'm out. So there you go. But yeah, so that'll wrap us up here for this latest news update with Lobo and the Batman Part 2 being pushed back again. Thank you all for watching and listening. You can follow us at elseworldsdcfan on all of our social media. Thank you all, and have a happy new year.